Good afternoon, all. We'll begin the session in 2 minutes.
Good afternoon.
Let's wait for a couple of minutes. Few more participants have to join. Please wait. Good afternoon, all. I'm your host for this session, Aishwarya here. I welcome you all to this 12th session of 1 week faculty development program on outcome-based education organized by Institute for Engineering Research and Publication, IFERP, in association with United Inverters, Asia Pacific Association for Dental, and Oral Health Krishna Institute of Dental Science and New Horizon College of Engineering. We will move to benefits. Benefits of outcome-based education bring clarity among the students and teachers. Every student has the flexibility and freedom of learning in their ways. There is more than one method of learning reduce comparison among the students as everyone has a different target, completely involve students talking responsibilities for their goals. This FDP has 14 sessions with 2 sessions per day on 14 eminent speakers will share their knowledge and experience. And now, today's topic is capitalization in the potential of problem-based learning of outcome-driven learning. Now coming to the second session, before inviting our speaker of the session, Mr. Hemlal Bhattarai, to take the spotlight. I would like to give an introduction about him and his expertise. Mr. Hemlal Bhattarai was the former Dean Research and Industrial Linkage 2015 to 2021 and Head of the Department of Electrical Engineering 2011 to 2015. He is having several publications in engineering, management, and technology, and also works as an editor-in-chief for the Journal of Applied Engineering, Technology, and Management, and reviewer of several journals, conference including IEEE. Highly motivated in the field of energy studies, which includes planning, management, audit, and energy efficiency, and renewable energy, most bioenergy, hydro, wind, and solar. He has a strong interest in the field of illumination energy engineering, power system, analysis, operation, and control, including smart system. Experienced in academic and management position with more than 10 years in management position. Lecturer with demonstrated history of working in the area of power and energy studies. Skilled in professional software like MATLAB, ANN, along with soft skill analytical skills. Now Mr. Hemlal Bhattarai can deliver the keynote.
Thank you so much, Asharya. Thank you so much for the introductions. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you can proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. And then it is my pleasure to be part of this very noble initiatives that is being carried out by IFERP. I have seen IFERP has been fundamental in uh, the area of research, innovations, and the domain where we need to enhance the learning and research capabilities of current generations that include academics as well as the researchers as well as the student too. So it is my pleasure to be part of this very noble initiatives, as I said, and then this FDP becomes quite crucial in current time, and then IFERP has given me an opportunity or invited me to be part of this as one of the speaker. Also, my greeting, good afternoon to the highly respected, esteemed colleagues who are participating today as an audience. One strong motto that always I have with me is that learn to share and then share to learn, which I always love to, being an academics in the academic field for almost 2 decades now. So let me straight away go to my slides and then we'll discuss, we'll talk on the agenda in more detail. So hope the slide share right is given to me. Let me try. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Okay, so in this 1 week online FDP program, which is basically focused on outcome-based learning, let me have once more a pleasure to be part of this excellent event, and then without wasting much time, let me proceed. I am working as a faculty, and then yes, formal drill, and then still there are some capping of those things going on with me. Yes, in current times, why should we think transformations, specifically in education reform? Can we really believe that our education systems should be dynamic? If we believe that our education systems to be dynamic, how dynamic it should be, and what should be the domain for us to drive towards thinking transformations in education sector, how often, and then what are the thought process. This is something we as an academic need to be very, very cautious about. What approaches are we doing? What is the want or need of current times? Is our education systems giving an avenue for our learner to be an active learner or a passive learner? What type of learning environment does current situations demand? These are some of the questions I think we should be always acquainted with. Once we are with these questions, then our approaches has to be devised. I personally feel like transformations in education is vital, and this has to be a key process time and again. But what should drive it? So that is something we should keep it with us, and then always progress. The outline of my presentations on the theme where I will be talking about capitalizing the potential of problem-based learning for outcome-driven learning process. The outline I will try to present in the form of my paper, where I will try to have a bit of abstract introduction and what motivates me to talk on this. Then talking about the educational transformations. Then problem-based learning as one tool, some results and conclusions, as well as the references. Now all of us are very much aware. This is some things which we all know that that has been the situations or challenges for us in the current time. Like if you try to see COVID-19 pandemic and its impact is something very vivid, very visible in current time. This pandemic has impacted all walk of life, and education is something which we cannot forget about. Education sector has been equally being impacted by this pandemic. Each sector's impact is something always there. In the meantime, this COVID-19 pandemic has also become a blessing, or COVID-19 pandemic also has become an opportunity in our way of thinking educations in a broader horizon, like thinking about the education system transformations. Is it necessary? And then how we have been coping with our education systems in the time of pandemic. So definitely transformation is demanded now, and now, so as I was sharing you earlier, when we think about transformations, there should be a driver, there should be some analysis, there should be a need for doing so. And now COVID-19 has opened us an idea, opened us a concept, opened us to work differently. So this definitely demanded us to work on the creativity and innovations model in education systems. How can we add creativity and innovations in our education systems transformations? Can that be done? Who will do it? How we will do it? And then obviously what is really threatening us now is the economic recessions and the recovery that we have to do from this. This has become a talk, a day-to-day talk of current times. Somehow or other, we try to be more relaxed with the COVID-19 pandemic, though it is still active. But we could see how our economy has been impacted. Then, who are the one that can always transform our economy? For transforming our economy, knowledge of current time is very much necessary. So, in a sector of educations, if you try to see the COVID-19 and then the academics, how we have to see ourselves as an academic in the time of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. Our role as an academic has to be more and more so of being a facilitator. We have to be a very, very critical component of our education systems to be a good facilitator. Obviously, being a facilitator only will not work. What is important along with it is that we have to be a role model. As we say about the role model, maybe we have to open up ourselves from the student domain. If I am a student, if I am a learner of current time, what is my expectations? And is that expectation is something that is vital in current times and for the future? Definitely, as an academics, we have to be an information provider. So we should be rich in informations. We should be thirsty for informations. We should keep on digging informations. We should keep on realizing the informations. We should keep on investing on informations, right informations, and then deliberate it, share it to the learner. Obviously, as I was sharing you earlier that a transformations is what is needed, then definitely a resource is important. We as an academic has to be a resource developer for the changes that we are thinking of, for the transformations that we want to bring it into. We should be a critical planner. Our plan should be always flexible. Our plan should be current. Are we still sticking to the 19th century way of planning, 20th century's way of planning, or want to process to the 21st century's way of planning? This is something we need to bring in ourselves, changes. And ultimately, what is very, very crucial is we should be a very well aware, well calculated assessors. We should assess on what is being done, what should be done, correct it, and then make an action. So definitely, if you try to see as an academics in current pandemic time, what is crucial for us is that We need to drive teaching and learning. Whatever comes and go, situations of favorable situations might come and go, very challenging situations might come and go, but the way of teaching and learning should not get lost. We should be always contributing. Obviously, there should not be excuse for research and linkages. These are two critical domains that will always complement and supplement teaching and learning activities. We should invest on research and linkages. We should be a driver of change here. And the third one is what we have seen from all this role is that we should be developing the capacity and then providing the support services. This is what our role has to be. Maybe government is facing critical time in reviving the economy, having critical time in planning for the changes. Their educators, academics can play a very crucial role in realizing the need and aspects of a nation. And everything said and done, when we talk about transformations, we are talking about change. Whenever change occurs, change will not always be tasty. Change will not always be favorable. Changes demands a lot of, let us say, appreciation, lot of, let us say, patience, and lot of commitment. It demands you to change from your way of thinking, the way of doing. Maybe it will ask you to come out from the comfort zone that you are working on and venture into a challenging environment. So taking that into considerations, counseling and guidance becomes one of the very, very crucial role of academics in current times. A counseling service. How can we know? Yes, our colleagues, our learners are being impacted by pandemic. How can we infuse learning? How can we infuse teaching? How the pandemic might have brought a lot of impact in their social as well as economic welfare. How can we be a driver of change by providing proper counseling and guidance? This is something that we need to look into very cautiously. I think there is some disturbance somewhere.
No, it's a piece.
Can someone mute who is putting the mic on? Hello, there is disturbance. I could see someone's mic is still on. Can the organizer just mute? Okay, so the motivations behind thinking for transformations, thinking about change in current time is that look at our learning environment in the times of pandemic, a post-pandemic. If you try to figure out from this different picture that are being portrayed, learning has to take place, learning is taking place, but are we effectively delivering it? That is a bigger question. Are learner effectively grasping what is being shared? How technology has reshaped our education systems? These are some of the thought-provoking things that we need to really see. Can we continue like this? Or a change that we are thinking of? How can we change? In each picture, if you try to see, there are actions, there are opportunities. There are opportunity for us to learn and make the change. That is what the transformations always ought to. So, what we need to be mindful now in motivations, what I personally derived was developing the meaningful environment. whatever may be the content, however you deliver it, if there is no meaningful environment, the learning teaching process will not be effective. One critical way can always be thinking about the engaging teaching learning environment, a productive way of doing certain things. More and more so, thinking about the action oriented aspects in our teaching and learning. And finally, the teaching and learning process should derive a results. So it should be result driven. I have learned something today. I am learning something today. But ultimately, what result I am supposed to derive from that? Can we able to communicate this? Can we able to make this very clear? Many a times I keep on giving an example, like if you try to see, that in suppose, let us take an example of our house. In our house, we perform a ritual for different functions, ritual for different purpose. But are we communicating this to our children, saying that this ritual is this, and the objective, the result driven from this ritual is this? What is the objective behind doing this? So sometimes in our teaching learning also same process might happen. We keep on doing certain things, we land up dumping many things to the learners, but we fail to really materialize that what is the ultimate results or goal of that approaches. Is it only someone to get passed, someone to get a good job, or something different? We are as an academics, as a learner, we are very much aware of this pyramid. This pyramid should be our driver whenever we are thinking about education transformations. This pyramid should guide us. This pyramid should be the building block, the learning pyramid. And then as a whole, we should analyze ourselves. Where is our teaching learning process now? If we are academics, we should really validate where is our teaching learning. Are we still in passive teaching method domain, or we are in participatory teaching method domain? Where are we? Where we fall? And then accordingly we can see the percentage of knowledge retention rate. Definitely participatory teaching learning methods has lot of positiveness. And when we think about participatory teaching learning, so in that aspect, if you try to see from the second triangle, that analyzing, defining, creating, and then evaluating this concept along with some demonstrate as well as applying the concept, doing the practice, will make more of participatory teaching more desirable. When you still keep on teaching learning process where we talks more on define, list down, describe, explain, this is more and more so of passive teaching learning. I am not trying to really make an argument saying that the passive teaching methods is wrong or not good. We should always mix. Obviously passive teaching method is necessary, but to what level, to what percentile, that is something which we need to devise in our education transformation system. So whenever we try to see education transformation, whenever we try to work on education transformation systems, there should be motive only for this, a motive to have maximum learning being derived from whatever transformations we want to bring. So there is need, what I conclude from this is that there is need to frame the curriculum. A curriculum has to be framed
To be very crucial years for you.
in such a way
You have to
that
make it.
there
There's
are
no
a lot of
chances of
participatory teaching and learning methods are being involved. So this is some things which we need to be mindful about. So substantial component on participatory teaching and learning should be included if you really want to have the transformations in education system that can bring a lot of knowledge retention and then learning that is happening. So now in the times of pandemics, there is always thirst for a change. Like blended learning has been one key instrumental aspects that has happened, that is happening, where a lot of aspects of teaching learning has been derived. One of that can be what we are doing now. So blended teaching and learning is one such tool which will not make us think education is just only in one way. So we can always have those blended learning environment. Then there is little bit of modifications of conventional blended learning to the student-centric blended learning. At the end of the day, learners are students. So how can we transform our education systems to the student-centered blended learning? If you try to see, we have the teacher-led or the instructor-led instructions, teaching and learning. That is more of face-to-face teaching and learning interactions. We also carry out web-based or some interview-based that is more on feedback or trying to derive what are the reflections from what is being delivered. There are computer mediated instructions, where in this domain we are more of e-learning, gaining popularities of e-learning. Substantial materials are available for e-learning. The only options that is there with us is to choose the right material. And then definitely the printed instructions way of learning, which is traditional study materials. So all this, as I was sharing you earlier, when you talk about transformation is some things whenever we are doing, it should not be totally 180-degree phase shift from what we have been doing. The transformation has to be in such a way that nothing is being compromised and then everything is being included. So this is how our teaching learning transformations has to be. So this is what changes is being demanded in current time. So there is need for us to frame curriculum which is more of student-centric learning approach. Where is the role? What is the role of students in teaching and learning? More and more so of student role in teaching learning has to be devised in our curriculum. So there are two domains of learning that keeps on happening, as I was sharing. One is project-based learning and there are problem-based learning. If you try to see a little bit of distinct differences between these two, project-based learnings are most of a time synonymous to problem-based learning. But more and more so in project-based learning, usually teachers define what problems on which student has to work. Even teachers try to, or a mentor or instructors try to give the instructional approach on what to be done and then ultimately come up with the product. But if you try to see from the problem-based approaches, where more of students will be engaged in defining the problem. Students will identify the way and prospects of working on that problem. And then ultimately students will come up with the solutions. So this is something that are different. But many a time synonymous, it looks synonymous. So if you try to see what is common between these two and then why we always tell these two as synonymous is that teacher is acting as a guide in both the cases. Obviously students are at the center of the wheel of learning And yes, whether you talk about project-based learning or problem-based learning, you have real-world connections because you are looking at problems that are some things the current times we are facing. There will be active learning derived from both, and obviously there might be self as well as peer assessment that can happen. But if you try to see, more of this target is more inclined towards problem-based learning. So in a nutshell, what I will try to share is that problem-based learning, if you try to see, student has more of control for their learning process, rather than in other way, students are more driving towards their self-learning process. So in our curriculum, when you frame, when you want to transform education, we need to also think very, very much on problem-based learning approaches. So this is what most of the times that we need to think about how can we adapt. Like if you try to see problem-based learning and project-based learning from three or four aspects, like what is the outcome, what are the main activities, what is the organizing principles, and then what is the self-directive learning processes. And if you try to see in both the cases, if you try to see things, there are a lot of things that are common, as I shared earlier. Engaging the students for solving the real world problem. There is always student-centric learning taking place. There is also professionalism in engage. Information's hunting and information's cleansing will always take place. Formative and performance-based assessment will something always happen. And in both the cases, obviously, teacher is a guide, as I shared already earlier, and the facilitator. But if you try to see deeper insight, then there are a lot of positive in problem-based learning, where you try to look much deeper into the problem and then understand that problem, because you are seeing that problem, you are motivated to work on that problem. So can this teacher, this problem-based learning can be approached as, first and foremost thing, we should understand these five critical aspects need to be really looked into if you want to venture into problem-based way of learning. First thing that is crucial is setting of the Pbl mindset. That is very important. Before doing something, setting of that mindset, like Pbl mindset. As we already said earlier, that we need to have the concepts on the real world problem, real life problem. Then more of constructive approaches of learning thing, interacting with the stakeholders, linking practice as well as theory, and finally the reflections. So such a type of mindset has to be devised first and foremost. So mindset setting is the key aspects of problem-based learning. Then in second part, then we need to come for design process of a problem, because if you try to see, each problem needs an appropriate process. All problems cannot be designed in a same manner that we think of. Each problem has its own pros and cons. Each problem has its internal as well as external contributors and realizations that are needed. So design process has to think about that. What approaches can we adopt? Leadership approaches? Can we apply management approaches? Can we apply the combinations? So based on based on the problem that we are going to study, the design process of the problem has to be thought of. Then the third one is framing the project design. This is more of now how can we address that problem? This is more of framing the project design. Okay, first I will do this, second I will do this, third I will do this, fourth I will do this, I will repeat this, so and so forth. Then the next step is to work on problem solving. Whenever we work on problem solving, it should be more of open way of problem solving, or rather than restrictive way of problem solving. It has to be open way of problem solving, like bringing the problem on a table of discussions, discuss the problem, refine the problems, redefine the problem. So this is where problem solvings all engage about. And then finally analyze whatever you have done, starting from the design process for a problem till problem solving. Need to do the entire process analysis. Then analyze it whether what you have done is the only options. Is there another options that can be think of, that can be devised of? So, hence more so in problem-based learning, it is more of conceptual platform of learning. Your conceptualizations will broaden. Your conceptualizations will open for a given problem. More of understanding of that problem becomes more. Like that once for certain problem, if our conceptual understanding becomes better, we try to see that problem from different angle and then think maybe that problem as an opportunity, maybe think that problem as a challenges, and then work for that. So basically this problem-based learning, if you try to see in a little wider way, it is grounded in experimental way of learning. Can I do this? If not this, then what can I do? So this type of learning. I have X, Y, Z way of doing this problem, or coming up with a solution for this problem. So trying X, Y, and Z, realizing, comparing this. So this is where now there are a couple of essential elements of Pbl where we need to focus about. Obviously, what we are mindful about is that we need to have the audience presented product as an output. So for that, if you try to see, our curriculum content has to be very appropriately designed. The curriculum content has to be designed in such a way that it meets the requirement of 21st century's skills. When we try to talk about 21st century's skills, then we are talking more of that need to be learned, which we need to know. Not everything, what we need to be know. So learn those things. Deriving or driving questions on what we need to know, learn, how we need to learn. More of, as I was sharing, student-centric. So student voice and choice are always given the preference in our Pbl way. Definitely, since in Pbl way we see problem from the conceptual and experimental way of learning, in-depth inquiry of our problems are essential. And then finally, whatever you have done, In Pbl, it has to end with reflection and then revisions. So there are 7 critical steps that is engaged or involved in problem-based stage learning stage. One is definitely a problem scenario. What the problem is, that is it. Identify the key fact pertaining to that problem is the second part of the problem-based stages. Once you identify key fact for that given problem, okay, you have found out that for suppose this product enhancement, quality, packaging, so and so forth as the key fact. Then in those key facts, do the brainstorming. Try to find out if anything is missing from whatever we are trying to think about. Brainstorm on missing information. Any informations that are essential has to be derived. So keep on brainstorming in a group. Then there is always necessary for self-directed learning. You should have that curiosity of learning. You should have that thirst of learning. You should have that passion saying that I want to do this and I will do this. Then the 5th steps happen to be assimilate the new knowledge, because once you try to see problems, do from different angles through your own involvement, you come up with multiple new knowledges, new understanding. Assimilate that. Then apply the informations. That is very vital. Getting right informations from the right source. Maybe right source happen to be, you may have to visit the site. You may have to interview the people, multiple interview, cross-check. So all these things happen. So then that is applying the informations to get the results. And then ultimately when we get the results, that results has to be analyzed. Analyze that results so that whether what you expect is being fulfilled or not. So that is something what we need to be mindful about. So in transformations now, there is need to frame a curriculum which is problem-based learning in current times of COVID-19 and our adaptations in COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 pandemic. We need to think from our curriculum, from the way that how our teaching learning process can be a driver for economy recovery. Seeing the problem through creative and innovative approaches. So we need to build our capacity on that area. We need to disseminate informations on these areas. So in this way, what is crucial is that we need to always provide a flexible knowledge, not a rigid, flexible. Provide effective problem solving skills, the skills that is really required for solving that particular problem of concerns. Always focusing on self-directed learning, because self-directed learning will bring motivations on you to do certain things. Definitely, as I was saying, that if you want to learn something in a very in-depth study, the collaborative linkages and then networking becomes very crucial. So effective collaborations is always vital. And then always learners comes under lots of ups and downs while working on Pbl problem. You should be always providing intrinsic motivations for doing certain things. So that has to be there. As a learner, it should be within you. Whatever ups and downs comes on my learning process, I have to do this because that is my interest of doing. So in 21st century skills, as I was talking about in our education transformations through problem-based approaches, our curriculums and approaches should include learning skill, literacy skills, and life skills. These 3 skills which are vital for 21st century's need. So in learning learning skills, critical thinking, creativity, collaborations and communications becomes very vital. We have to infuse this in our curriculum. In literacy, skills, getting the informations, where information is available, how can you use technology for informations, collecting as well as deriving. And life skill is more of managerial aspect, being flexible in our process, thinking as well as learning process, having leadership quality because you have to work in group as an individual, be initiative, productivity has to be there, otherwise you will not make a success in problem based learning. And obviously you should think from social angle, be social yourself. So there is need to frame the curriculums which always meet our 21st century skills in our education transformation system. Like learning part has to be there, literacy part has to be there, and then life skill has to be there. So the results and conclusions from my session is that developing 21st century skills has to be priority in our educational transformations whenever we are thinking about our education and learning process. And as we think that need of creativity and innovations is becoming very important. So transformation has to be smart. We have to work on smart transformations. Then obviously in our transformations we need to shift from our conventional or traditional way of teaching learning to one method might be problem based learning. And definitely, as I was sharing to you, that economy recovery has to be being our core. So we need to bring a problems, we need our student or learner to visualize problem from that aspect and then work for that, and then we becomes contributors to our national reforms that we are talking about. So a proposed framework for educational transformations in the time of COVID and post-COVID, when economy is in greater threat, society is in greater threat, then 21st century skills are vital, where we need to think our transformations from student-centric learning. We should have always been driven by socio-economic development. How is this trend of socio-economic development, and then what is its contributions, what role it can play, and can we change it now because it is being impacted? Definitely climate change is threatening everything. So can our approaches is also to address the climate change and economy recovery? And definitely seeing all these things, problem based learning can achieve most of these things that I have reflected in my presentations. So further results and conclusion is that obviously if we adopt problem based learning, it promotes the communication skills because the learners will be engaged from group works till the final products with different circle of people and then panel. Active learning environments do take place, definitely, because learners will through and through be engaging. Critical thinking skills will build up because student will try to see anything as a problem, look from different angle for that problem, design the best of the best approaches to mitigate that problem, and come up with the multiple options of solving that problem. There will be always peer teaching, learning from each other, sharing with each other, and group dynamics and group participations becomes very crucial. So definitely creativity and innovations will enhance in problem based approaches. But where can we apply Pbl? I happen to see sometimes people say that I teach mathematics, I cannot apply Pbl here. Somebody say that I teach language, I cannot apply Pbl. But to me, with my own understanding and then engaging in problem-based activities, problem-based learning can be applied for any subjects, but only the way how you can devise matters. So how can we act as an academics, as an student? There is two picture, one or two. So where is it? Obviously, in current times where we think transformation is essential, the two picture is more preferred because the teacher or a professor, let us say, has to be more and more so as a mentor, guide, facilitator, rather than the one who is controlling the learning. And definitely now blended learning and problem based learning may be the future of our educations. We need to explore more and more of this in our uh, teaching learning transformations or education transformations that we are thinking of. So these are some of the key references that I have used for my presentations, and thank you for your patience listening. It was wonderful having you all today afternoon, and then hope I might have been of little bit of contributions for these noble initiatives where problem based learning is definitely an integral part of outcome driven learning process. Thank you so much, and back to organizer.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any questions, you can ask now.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
I'm Suchitra. I'm from Department of Chemical Engineering, Andhra University. Sir, I would just want to thank you for your excellent presentation. I had the opportunity to visit Bhutan like around 10 years back, but I can see that it has come a long way since then till now. And that was an excellent presentation about the capitalization of the the current situations where we are facing with so many problems, and you have given us an excellent solution that not only the problem based work is important, but the project based work is also important, and when you are combining them, you are getting the very good results. So I would just want to ask you, the project based environment where we are giving the students the projects, after the pandemic, there is a kind of, let us say, kind of laziness in the students, that they are not interested in doing any projects that are challenging. They are like, okay, if my seniors have done this project, then I will do it and I'll just copy and paste it. So can you tell us any basic, interesting projects that I can give to my first years who are, who have just started the college and they need some kind of inspiration?
Okay, thank you so much, Suchita ji. It was a pleasure hearing you. Thank you that you have a vivid memory of visiting Bhutan. Obviously, yes, in your questions, there is a big rescue, as I was sharing to you earlier in my presentations. The solution is obviously a problem based learning. Like to a young mind, suppose you are teaching a business environment or business student, let me be very specific, from the business domain. So, like you might have seen in your locality, the business communities, business societies are being impacted.
Yes.
So, in your teaching and learning, you can just bring in the example saying that the pandemic or a post-pandemic situations of business in our locality, if you try to say X, Y, and Z, this was how it was faring, and things have gone wrong.
Yes.
Where the things has gone wrong? Now I should not give the topic. Now we should ask the student that now as a learner, this is something bad. This is something which should not happen. Now this is a modal exercise for you. I will divide it into 5 groups. Can you come up with the situation analysis for how things was earlier, if there are changes, why that changes has happened. What you see, go to town and then visit, go to the locality and visit, and then see that what is that happening. They will go, come back, that group start discussing, then let that group discuss. You give certain time, let us say 1 hour, and then after 1 hour tell them to recap, and then when they recap, you just add. Now you should not provide a topic, you just add, oh, you have seen this, is it really because of this, was there not other factors? You try to open them as a mentor, you just try to open them. Oh, there might be other angle. Is it not because of dependence? Then students have all this type of thought process, they revisit the problem, where now you find themselves engaging, rather than, suppose if you give a topic saying that there is a economic no situational arises in our locality, in business community, so can you work on this project? If you start giving like this, then they will just go do little bit of interview, come back, and then fulfill your assignment. That is it.
That's a very good suggestion, sir. So you are suggesting us to go around and explore the problem rather than present something to them from the academic. So I think that will work actually, because the children are also cooped up inside, like they are not going outside, they don't have exposure. So maybe this kind of problem solving will make them more interested in the studies. So thank you very much for your suggestion, sir. This will be really useful for my students. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Suchita. Thank you so much. And then rather than you giving the problem, let them identify the problem.
Yes.
Let them identify the problem. It will be much useful.
Yes, that way I guess they will be more interested in solving the problem, because they will be like, yeah, I did this, so I have to solve this. So thank you, sir. That was a very good suggestion.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any other questions? I think we will move to vote of thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Hemlal Bhattarai, for the wonderful session. I believe this session was informative for all. On behalf of IFERP, I heartily thank all the professors, academicians, and delegates who have joined us today. I would like to extend my gratitude to our esteemed speaker, Mr. Hemlal Bhattarai, for delivering the keynote address. I post the link of the upcoming conference with feedback link. IFERP would like to receive your suggestions and feedbacks to advance the upcoming session much more informative. Kindly check in chat and give your feedbacks through the feedback link. I hope everyone received the links.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all participating in this session. We will wind up the session. Thank you. We will have the session tomorrow at 11 a.m. We're looking forward to you all. Thank you.